Here is the 2024 Volkswagen Atlas Cross Sport SEL Premium R-Line in pure gray over black and blue leather interior. This is a full refresh for 2024. You're getting more safety amenities, more horsepower, more torque than the prior 2.0 turbo, but no more VR6 engine. I'm Anthony from Hawkeye Rides, and starting into the front fascia, the full redesign gets the light bar that integrates into the IQ lights. It's a LED headlight, daytime runnings with cornering lights. The lower gets the gloss black elements because this is the R-Line, keeping 8 inches of clearance and touches of chrome because this is the premium trim. But the big difference is the 2.0 Turbo 4. You're getting an increase of 34 horsepower and 15 pound-feet of torque with 269 horsepower and 273 pound-feet of torque. That's paired to an 8-speed Tiptronic automatic transmission. Now we are down 7 horsepower from the VR6 engine, which was a naturally aspirated V6, but we're up 7 pound-feet of torque, and you're still getting 5,000 pounds of towing. 21-inch wheels. Coming standard is an 18-inch wheel. Going up the tier will go up to a 19 and 20-inch wheel. In the Peak Edition, we'll have an 18-inch wheel, which is also new. It's a more off-roadsy look. In comparing this to the rivals, where does it sit? Well, it's the best in class for leg room in the third row, going against Honda, Toyota, in which Toyota now has a Grand Highlander, which is longer than this, and unfortunately Volkswagen doesn't offer anything longer or wider, but they do offer the Tiguan, which is a slot underneath this. So if you don't want to have this much in length and width, you could go to that and still option a 7-seater or a 5-seater. In this case, they do offer an 8-seat capabilities, but when you get into the Cross Sport, it's only going to be a 5-seat configuration. And even though we have downsized from a naturally aspirated V6 to only 1 engine option, we still have the towing capabilities. So when you're thinking, does it have enough motivation? I would say it does. Standard LED taillights, and it's a light bar with the chrome trims keeping underneath it for motion. It's the all-wheel drive, gloss black on the lower trim because of the R-Line, and you have a quad tip look with the diffuser and the towing package, which keeps the sport element alive for the Volkswagen line. Power liftgate going into 40 cubic feet of storage. You have a little bit of a nook on both sides with a 12-volt charger. Underneath the floor is going to get the spare tire. And to split fold the rear bench, you do have to go to the back seat, unfortunately, to do so. You're going to be losing about 19 cubic feet of storage if you are comparing this to the standard Atlas. Because of that coupe design, we need to go inside, start up this new Turbo 4 so you can hear that exhaust note. Leather seats start on the SEL. We have the Titan black with blue underlays, 10-way power seat adjustment for the driver, 8-way power seat adjustment for the passenger, heated, ventilated, and memory for the driver. Headroom and leg room. The refresh has made it more versatile, adding stainless steel pedals on the SEL trim, satin aluminum on the lower air vent tier with some buttons. We're going to get to that in a second. You get the contrast stitching, gloss black elements, and a 2-tier for the air vents with the aluminum look that's going to brush underneath the standard 12-inch infotainment screen. Heads-up display and more of a flat dash layout with the auto-dimming rear view mirror and a large pano moonroof that goes past the back seats. Apple CarPlay, Android Auto, Sirius XM, AM, FM with gesture, streaming Bluetooth audio, Amazon Alexa. Click onto the vehicle setting here, and you're going to see for the interior we have the ambient lighting. And when you go down through here, you have the Climatron, which when you click onto that, that's the dual climate control settings in the front, heated, ventilated seat switches. Click onto the modes. This is the driver mode select. You can custom, in which you can change the whole configuration to make it as sport derived as you like, or you could just simply put it into sport. Click onto the assistants, and when you click onto the icons, you can deactivate or reactivate. So it is a little bit more simplified. Click the X, click that again, It's going to take you back to the home when you click the square. The only thing that I dislike right off the bat is you don't really have physical buttons. It's all touch screen or touch sensitive. So even for the climate control, you can go fast. So it does make it a little bit more easier so you don't have to look off the road. It just would be nice if they had some physical buttons. And we now have voice recognition like, "Hey Volkswagen, turn off the climate control."
All right.
Leather wrap steering wheel. Leatherette starts on the SEL. Multifunction, R-line badging. It's more of a flat bottom. Paddle shifts, and the gauge cluster can go through an array of information for the driver, so you can change out pretty much the whole layout. And you can change the view as well to have the navigation on both of the gauge cluster and the infotainment screen, which you could not do this on the prior gen. Slide this open, QI wireless charger, USB ports, you got a couple there, plus you got one right up here if you want to run a radar detector or a dash cam, and the key fob for the new Atlas Cross Sport. The rocker, gloss black elements, soft to touch, you get a storage pocket and a pass-through, which was not part of last year. It's going to be long and wide. It's a little bit more firm, opens up, and it's still a deep storage pocket with another USB port. The prior gen had a little bit more storage in the center, but the pass-through opens it up. The door is going to brush into the air vents. It's going to be soft to touch where it needs to be, and you get that leatherette right into here. One touch up and down for all the windows, and a large wide storage pocket. For the back seat headroom, and this is reclined. So we're gonna set it up straight, and the headroom still is pretty good for anyone that's over 6 foot tall. Leg space is the same. You get storage behind both of the front seats, heated rear seats, USB ports, and a home plug. Cup holders with an armrest, and the door panel starts off with manual sunshades. You get the same pattern design, and everything that's in the front comes into the back, except you get a little bit more storage. You get a storage pocket right into here, and you can actually use the grab handle as a storage pocket as well. Sliding into the center, the floor isn't completely flat, but you have your own feet space more or less. It's more comfortable though putting it here because of this lip that is coming up. Butt and shoulder space, it's not going to be compromised because it's a wide vehicle, and because it's tall, even though it's a coupe design, plenty of headroom if you're over 6 foot tall. 269 horsepower with 273 pound-feet of torque. We are getting an increase of horsepower and torque compared to last year's turbo, but for the VR6, we're losing 7 horsepower, gaining 7 pound-feet of torque. This is sport mode. Let's see what we got. It's still pretty quick. You get the exhaust note that filters in. You have the touch button so you can configure it pretty quick and easy. It will take me to the big problem to start off though, is everything is touch derived for this 12-inch infotainment screen, which it's not necessarily a big problem after you get used to it, but then the configuration of apps, you got to go into an app to another app into another app in order to change any configuration, especially if you want to change that ambient lighting, in which you may want to change the colors, or you can keep it the blue that I've more or less kept it throughout the review. It looks sporty enough. I like the gauge cluster, and they finally, for the Big Pro, have let us have the opportunity to have the maps on both screens, because you couldn't do that on the prior gen. Losing the VR6, is it something that is a big deal? I mean, I'm getting better MPGs. The Turbo 4 does what it needs to do. You still sit up high. The drive still feels refined. The seats are going to be more comfortable than the Tiguan, which is also going to through a full refresh for 2025. And you have a lot of space, because when you get into the Atlas, opposed to the Tiguan, it's more wide. You sit up higher, you feel more dominant, and I would recommend optioning at least the SE with technology so you get the light bar in the front. Going against rivals, this is going to be better than Honda in the sense of having more legroom for the second row. When you go into the Atlas, without the Cross Sport, you're going to get more legroom for the third row than Honda. And the same thing with Toyota. in which if you go into the new Grand Highlander, it's longer than this vehicle and you're getting almost or right about the same leg space and head space as the standard Atlas. The steering is light. It just feels a lot more refined and cleaned up. Another pro is you have a lot of storage nooks. The pass-through was something that they were lacking in the prior gen, in which it opened it up, the rocker, and putting buttons here in the center cluster just makes a more airy feel in the interior of the cabin. Back seats always had a lot of space. I've recommended this vehicle to neighbors and friends and even family members, in which my father actually bought an Atlas, because I said, if you're looking for something that has the most leg space and head space, good cargo capacity, and 5,000 pounds of towing, it's hard to find something in this price category that ticks the box for all of that. Yes, you can go into the Pilot for a third row variant and you can get that, but they didn't do any increase in towing. Braking on the vehicle is basically the same. Curb weight hasn't changed that much. It's going to be a little bit lighter in the front because the engine isn't a naturally aspirated V6. Turn radius at a stop point is going to be tight, about 2 and a part lane. Let's rock and roll. I like the exhaust note that filters in though. It doesn't quite sound like a Turbo 4. It's not going to sound like a V6, but the sound deadening has improved also. I don't hear anything, and when I'm considering this is more or less a box on wheels, I'm liking what I'm seeing. As for comparable rivals, Toyota, Honda, Nissan, I mean, Volkswagen has stepped up the game and they're getting you better MPGs. You're getting better performance numbers than the prior gen in the Turbo 4. And you're still getting better torque in this than the VR6. So either way you go, if you wanted to option the VR6 for the 23 model, the torque is not going to be so much where you're just going to be pinned to your seats. But the ride quality is smooth. 4Motion with active control. Now, I'm not saying go crazy because this is not a sports car. And unfortunately, a lot of that exhaust note that filters in pumps through the speakers, which you can configure that through the infotainment. Let's see how well. Look at this. Just a playful car. It does feel wide, and it does feel long. The side view mirrors are also a little bit wider, so it helps illustrate how wide and long the vehicle is. Comparing this against Kia or Hyundai, because of the refresh that Volkswagen has done, it just kind of sets itself apart. You even have Hey Volkswagen, so technology has improved, safety has improved, the drive quality. I mean, let me know your thoughts in the comments. And if you're new to the channel, consider subscribing. Check out the next video, merchandise, website, and Instagram. Leave a comment and a like. And I'd like to thank Volkswagen of North Tampa for giving us this 2024 Volkswagen Atlas Cross Sport for our car review.